Yes, sir. Back at it again. Back at it like a crack addict. Drunk Tours podcast in the building. It's your boy Yates from Atlanta, aka Wakanda.
I'm your other host, Jarrell from Portland, Oregon. You already know.
Man, what we talking about today, brody?
Today we gonna get more so into the philosophical category and just a little bit more thought, nothing so deep, possibly. But
we talking about relationships.
But nah, the topic today is, where do we come from? Where do you think we come from? You know what I'm saying? What do you think God is in your mind? And also just the whole thing about just aliens putting us here, all this other little conspiracies that follow that. So
You pop that shit out there, bro. Pop it out. Let me see where you go, and then we'll just build. Cause I'm interested in getting your perspective on.
I don't know. I think that one of the, I won't say like what I necessarily think, but I feel like one of the.
Don't say what you think, bro.
Well, I would say think, or I would say what my mind, and I feel like entertains me the most to think would be like a crazy concept of possibility is
Tell me
like,
about it.
just the whole like Anunnaki story and just.
I don't know what that is.
Well, basically, it's like, if I'm correct, Anunnaki, I think is the name of them. But
Wait, is that like the reptile thing?
That I don't know. I just know that basically they're like supposedly the aliens who came here and they're trying to mine gold, basically. Mm-hmm. And they basically genetically created humans to mine and basically be slaves for them and stuff like that.
Okay.
And they just basically run like the planet and just run like the solar system and really just eye on us, and we're really just like, basically the monkeys of the ultimate supreme beings themselves and whatnot. So, and then there's, so I think about
what do they need to go for?
I don't know, minerals or some shit. I don't really know I don't know even if people even know if that's even, I don't even think there's like a written possibility of like the conspiracy of why they even needed it. But I mean, I just know that's one of the histories of why he got here. I just like to entertain that rather than more so thinking I don't know, to think that there was like a consciousness. When you think about God, you think about a consciousness that's just like out of nowhere, just randomly like oceans, animals, like rocks and planets and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden you're just like, okay, I'm gonna make a human with rules and all this type of stuff. It just, I'm not saying that's not possible, but it just, I don't know, that's just one of the possibilities that I just feel like is just like, I don't know, my soul doesn't really lean to as much. And then, I don't know.
What do you think pushes you away?
From what, religion? I think the idea of people knowing something that they don't know but acting like they know. I feel like it's like someone trying to sell me a car who don't know nothing about cars. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel about religion. Because it's like, how can you tell me about something that you yourself don't even fully know? You know what I mean? Of course you have the Bible and you have like ancient texts allegedly that said all this stuff, but I feel like text is like, it can be like a game of telephone. You think about religion and stuff like that. It's like somebody said this, and the book just continues to stay on and stuff. And I'm like, well, like look how all these things are happening. It's like, you don't ever think that the people that wrote this and use this are the same people that's in control of making it seem like the world's going this way when it's really just a plan of their own, or maybe because things in life just always go a certain type of way, so everything always seems like it's prophesizing just because that's just how time is. It always, ain't nothing new under the sun. You know what I mean? So I just think of that. I don't know, that's why I don't really get into it, because it's like, who really knows?
Right.
I don't know.
When it comes to religion, I agree with you to a degree. I get what you're saying. I think there are major pros and cons to the idea of religion as a whole. For one, it's a separation mechanism, right?
Right.
Either you're a believer or you're not in any religion. And immediately, anybody who's considered a not, you no longer have to consider their opinion, right? Because it's like, well, you don't believe what I believe, so we disagree. And there's no growth that can come from it because it stops the conversation. So that would be like a major con, where I get what you're saying to a degree. But the major, like I've studied basically all of the major religions out of just curiosity and self-understanding and wanting, because I'm a PK, so like my dad's a pastor, so religion has always been something that's like a, you know, when it's like, I ain't in it like you in it, but it's something there, but I don't know if, you know, it's like I've always had a yearning to understand. So I've always studied like all religions to understand. And one thing that I've recognized is that certain things are consistent throughout almost any religion. Usually it's something's bigger than yourself. It's the importance of making the right decisions. It's some form of punishment for the wrong decisions. And usually, depending on the religion, it's some form of, like, the core teachings, like, basically teaches you that you already know, but the religion kind of teaches you need to go through a person or a church or a pastor or a priest or a sanctuary or some form of
a house, something
to like direct you to God, or you know, whatever the, like you said in your scenario, the Anunnakis or whatever. It's always whatever religion you believe in. It's all and when you
I ain't no religion. I'll be attached to that.
Yeah, but when you take yourself out of it and you look at it almost like a researcher, I feel like religion gets really, really interesting.
Nah, for sure.
Because it's like you're no longer emotionally attached to it, and you can just see.
You can actually just compile actual evidence and information and really place like something in your mind, like to what you feel like it really truly is.
Because when you think of the idea of something bigger than you, the reason why it's so easily acceptable is it just makes sense. Like when you think of the complexity of the world, the complexity of all the things that make life possible, it makes sense that somebody had to establish it this way.
Right.
When you think of things like gravity, when you think of the fact that like you can split any atom, no matter how small you get, it keeps splitting. When you get to every fingerprint is individual. When you get to the complexity of DNA, like no matter how deep you dig, there's always some form of structure to it that's so perfect that you recognize like, okay, somebody had to design it this way. So it's,
well, we think that it has to be somebody because we only see each other as humans, so we feel like the only thing that we know of creation is something to have created it.
I mean,
you know, because at the same time, it's like, how do you not know that all this stuff is just a natural phenomenon? Like it was no thought to it. It's just a natural.
Because that doesn't exist in the universe. We've never seen it. Like you've never seen anything that doesn't have some form of explanation.
I mean, there's always the way of something being created, but it doesn't necessarily mean it comes from a person.
No, I'm not saying a person, but you.
But I mean, we're talking about like being created from a conscious mind. Though.
No, but this is my point. Whenever something is created, you can trace it back to understand where it came from.
No, for sure.
But the only thing we can't really trace all the way back is our personal existence. You can say the parasite or even that to a degree.
Right.
Still makes you question, where did that come from? Like it's always
like they say we star seeds too, like
exactly,
like it fell into the ground, or like the whole Cabbage Patch story. Like I have an African mythology book that I got from my grandmother I read, and it just talks about like some of like old religious views of just like tribal Nigerians and just like just Bushmen, just type Africans and stuff and tribes and even like the way they explain like how they think stuff came around, like a animal coming here and creating something, and then a bird came here and it made the trees or something like that. You just think like, I don't know. It's just,
but to me, I feel like as humans we search for answers to gain peace, because the idea that nothing caused everything, it you can't really comprehend it.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe that's the whole idea. Is you can't because you're human. You know,
but that's kind of my theory on God. Because now we getting into the God talk. All right, boom. I'm gonna give you a question. We're gonna try to see where this goes. All right. Speaking on nothing created something, right? Because it's always like everything got to trace back to somewhere. Like it's always why. You get to a point where you don't know the answer, and then time goes on, we get better science or whatever, and then you can go a little further, and there's always a stopping point where we don't know why this happened, right? But It's always further back it can go. So speaking of God, this is my whole theory on God after researching tons of religions and mythologies. And that's another thing about religion that always kind of got me. When you start studying mythologies, whether it's Japanese mythology or Greek mythology or something that's considered not a religion anymore, we're like, oh, this is mythology. This is like interesting, Hercules or whatever. You know, I'm taking it as a parable and a story. We just take it as that. But religion, if you look at it like a mythology, you can now find the good principles in it, just like any other mythology, and take that and live with those great principles.
Nah, it's definitely a book of ethics. I feel like it's mentioning what is more so about like that's why when it comes to religion, like I'm all for like the helping man stand upright. You know what I mean? Because that's the idea of it. It's supposed to be, you know, a man's supposed to have this so they know how far away from God they're getting. You know what I'm saying? And that way you can stay on track of just righteousness and just light. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, that comes to just, you know, most religions say like you reap what you sow, you get in what you get out. Like ye shall seek, ye shall find. It's almost a law of attraction. It's like, you know what I mean? Like the you know, don't be out here fornicating with a bunch of people, obviously, because, you know, they don't say, but obviously unwanted pregnancies, STDs, like there's plenty of things that make sense to follow. But when it comes to like the who said it and when they said it and how they said it is the part that is, I feel like is in question, that most people feel like they know, you know, which is, but to me, the most interesting part of it, you know what I'm saying? Because the ethics part is not like,
I feel like that's the separation part right there.
For sure.
Because now you're arguing intangible. Like that doesn't matter to me. Like to me, everything is about the, like, you know, I'm always like principle, ethics. Like to me, that's what you're supposed to get from it. It's like, if you don't read this literally, you know, not saying you should or shouldn't. Like I don't care either way. I support it wholeheartedly. Anything that make you a better person, I support it. I don't care if it's something I don't believe in.
Right.
If it makes you a better person, I support it. But to me, it's, if you don't read it literally, is it still good for you? That makes sense?
Yeah.
Like, because people will be like somebody will be Christian and Jesus Christ said the whole word rests on two things: love thy neighbor as thyself, and trust God with your whole mind, heart, and soul. The first one is love thy neighbor as yourself. So love other people the way you love yourself.
Right.
And somebody will, that is the definition of Christian, is to be Christ-like. So if that is what being Christ-like is, and you feel like you can hate somebody because they don't agree with other parts of the Bible or whatever, you're not being Christ-like. So to me, it's always like, are you following the principles, or are you getting focused on that part that separates, right? Like these people from these people, like, because it come down to the principles for me. But get back to the God part. Okay, it's all hypothetical. You ready?
Yeah.
You're God.
Right.
You're the only thing that exists, right? You have all of the knowledge and information that will ever exist. Due to the fact that you had everything, you cannot enjoy it because you didn't have to do anything to get it. You just got it. If you could give a gift to yourself, what would it be?
That thing that I'm missing.
To not know, right?
Probably.
That's us.
So you created yourself and then just made yourself forget.
I don't think it's created itself. It's just like it always existed, and I feel like it has to always exist. And this is my whole theory. This is my.
But I mean, that's what they say in the Bible. God has always had.
I'm about to try to give you a lot of stuff, and I'm gonna try to like make it smaller, where it's like, where it's kind of like you bite-sized pieces, right? All right, so boom. If I was God and I had everything, I understood what happiness was. I understood what sadness was. But I can't be happy or sad because I know it all. I can't teeter because I don't even live in this space of time. I don't even live in, like, none of this exists. If I had control of all things, I would want to be able to experience those things. So I would create another version of myself and give myself the gift of not knowing. That makes sense?
It does make sense.
right?
But I mean,
But
that's talking from a place where God is depressed though.
No, it's just it's coming from nothing. Remember I said the idea of nothing?
Yeah, I get it. What you're saying.
Now listen, it's not depressed because depressed means you need something to be happy. I'm saying there is no nothing, but you understand that something can exist. So it's like, I personally feel like if he created, like, I want to give this gift to myself to understand these things, it would happen immediately, but based on something called the butterfly effect that we can get into talking about science and how everything has to happen. Like, creating that would create things like time, space, matter. Why? Because if I say there's nothing, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna pretend it's the sun. I'm like, all right, there's nothing, and I want light, so I'm gonna create the sun. Place the sun there. The amount of time it took for me to create the sun and put it here, now just created time. Before, there was no such thing as time because there was nothing to be tracked because nothing happened. Now that I've done something, now time is this because you can actually track the time it took to make something and place something. You got time and you have matter because something exists.
Right.
And you have space because there was the distance created. Right?
The distance created from what? What do you mean?
Wherever you put it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you went there, it don't matter. Like, now space exists because something was moved, right? So now there's like this butterfly effect of everything. So if I just wanted, it's like, I'm God, I'm gonna make another God, and you're gonna be able to be happy because you're gonna be able to feel or something. It's like, all right, cool. And it happens. To us, step back, it might be like, all right, it's like another guy pop up. Oh man, this is dope, man. I'm happy and stuff. All right, cool. Like, and that's it. But when you break it down into time, right? Because now it's time. It's like, all right, if he did that, how do you learn stuff?
You have to give you a book,
or through experiences,
right?
Either you read experience or you live experience,
right?
What is when it says God knows all? What if he knows all because he's lived all? So it's like, what if every person you meet is another version of you? You ever feel like connected to somebody or like almost like a soul tie or almost like, it's almost like we the same person or be like, man, what if reincarnation is real? Or what if we're all...
That's what I think when I say, like, when they say every time somebody dies, a child's born, I'm like, there's a certain amount of souls that just keep recirculating.
What if we're just one?
That's what I'm saying. It just keeps like, or it's just like a certain amount, or it's just, it could be tied to one, but it's just, that's why every time someone dies, one comes because it's just, souls are just circulating through all the bodies.
Perfect.
But I mean, it could be from the same energy source.
So what if there's like
just,
one,
everything is going,
and then it splits into, let's say, 100 million trillion or whatever. And then it's like, to understand this one, you have to go through all this shit to understand anything, all knowledge on earth. And then when it's all encapsulated together, it's like you have that one again, right?
Yeah.
And then once you had that one again, I feel like that one would have one moment of being like, this has to come from somewhere. Like, holy shit, I made this. And then it would just keep starting over. It was like, oh man, I need to give this gift to me again. And it just turns into like this cycle of like ever evolving. That makes sense? And it's just like, it's just this super dope idea that I got after a Dave Chappelle special. Because Dave Chappelle had a special where his last joke was like, you had been hearing the whole joke throughout. And then at the end, he said, he just like, I don't even remember the joke. I just remember having this epiphany when watching it. And it was just like, holy shit, this is the best joke I ever heard in my life. And it's because he's been telling the joke the whole time, and I never heard it until I understood the joke. He had to set me up for the understanding the whole way, but he had been telling the joke, and I was laughing so hard and so happy. I was like, holy shit, what if this is what God literally just wanted to give himself? And it's like, we're all like living through this small learning, which is why we always feel like we already know a lot, but we just can't really explain it. Like, it's like learning is really just kind of searching yourself for the answer. It's like you
for
already
sure.
know it.
Yeah.
But it's
like
like
it's
where
deep
does that
inside you
knowing
already.
come from? Or consciousness? Like where does like you have your mind and you have your conscious mind, right? You have like your neural, you have your brain ability, and then you have like your conscious.
Yeah.
And you can't find the conscious in the brain, but we know it's almost like a projector when you start to get into neurology and the way the brain fires, and you start to get into like how habits are wired together and what makes you feel like, why can you feel when you're doing something that's wrong?
Yeah.
Why can you feel it? Like, why do you have a gut feeling when something about to happen? Why does it hurt when you lose somebody? Why does it feel good when a child's born? Why do you feel even when you don't know?
Yeah.
Like there's like a certain level of connect because you already know it. It's like we have so much knowing in us that we just can't understand because we're still going through the joke. And you won't get it to the very end. That's why I feel like death is just like, I feel like when you, like in the moment you die, I feel like you get complete understanding.
Yeah.
And then you lose it again and you start over. And it's like, I feel like in that moment,
until you realize that you're inside of it, and then all of a sudden you take a step outside of time.
I used to have this thing I always said I was gonna do. I was gonna write a movie, and it was gonna be like somebody live a life, and you just go through their life with them, and then at the very end, like they die, and then everybody clapping. They're like, "What the fuck?" And they open up. And like the doctor and their family there, cause they old person, you know, they done lived a long life. Their family like was there and they pulled out a cord and they died. And then the family like clapping, that was great acting, that was great. And the dead person's like, what the fuck? Like I'm dead. And then like they don't feel older one, like what the fuck? Like yo, what's going on? And they're like, man, that was beautiful, man. I almost didn't keep it together in that last scene. And like the family cried. They're like, what the fuck? And then like the hospital room like opened up and you see like a crazy stadium of people like, that was fucking crazy. That was beautiful. You're like, what the fuck? And it's like, man, thank you for acting that out. And you're like, what the fuck? What do you mean? And it's like, well, you don't remember you wrote this? Like, guys, like, hey, I gave you the ability to write the perfect movie. So, you know, it had to have ups and downs and, you know, all the trials that you lived through. And you wrote the perfect movie. It's like, and I knew you couldn't act it out if you remembered all this. So I did you the favor. And I made you forget. And it's like, when you think of it that way, any bullshit you've ever lived in your life, you would put on yourself. Because you'd be like, I want this shit to be the best fucking movie. Man, I'm trying to get beat up in the 3rd grade, trying to get robbed by my cousin. I'm trying to whoop the whoop. Like, all this shit go in there. Then, all right, so boom. So now you in heaven or whatever. And everybody like, man, that was fucking great. Everywhere you go, it's like, man, thank you. Oh, this is great. And then you just like, after a while, you're like, fuck, like, I need to write another movie. And everyone's like, no, you know, they're showing another movie. You coming, you in the crowd, you clapping, somebody else realize. And you just like, fuck, man, I wanna be back there. I wanna be back there. It's like, nah, I appreciate your movie was good, but this the best movie. And now you like super depressed and you hate your life. It's like, I wrote the best movie. And nobody, it was like, hey, that movie was trash. That was an old movie. That was 3 weeks ago. It's like, mine was the best. Every day is new movie. And finally you like a crackhead under a bridge or something going crazy. Like, and then you die again. And then you like, one day it'll be and then like, it all happened again. It's like, man, that was an even better movie, man. It's another, like, what the fuck? And then you realize like, oh, this shit never, like, that was like your low point of the high point. And then you realize, like, God made it like this, where it's just like this up and down for eternity. But you need the downs to appreciate the ups.
Of course.
And
it's just natural. It's just natural balance of just science.
But that's my idea, guy. I think you like slick, low key a comedian.
Well, we coming to the end of this episode of. You know, we're gonna have a continuation part 2 of this.
We might have to do a part 2 of
this. Yeah, definitely a part 2. But yeah, make sure y'all tap in Drunk Tours Podcast on all social media. Make sure you follow me, King of the Globe, Instagram.
IG, Hoes in the Pocket. Still looking for a new name. We're gonna change that though. You know, drop some comments. Let me know what I should change it to. DM me.
Yeah, make sure y'all tap in. We're gonna be dropping a part 2 within these weeks. Make sure you catch this one and be ready for the next.